1, 2, 1, 2. How y'all doing? What's going on?
I hope
Here we
you guys
go.
didn't think I was going to dance, so all right, that's on you. Thank you all for being here with us today. I know you're not here to see me, you're here to him. So I have a few questions that we'll be asking today.
All right, cool. Let's do it.
All right. So, did you grow up wanting to be a hip hop artist?
Nope. I grew up not wanting to be in show business at all. Show business, to me, and maybe a lot of you in here, was two things. In my house, in the porch, and in the living room, and in my room. Soul Train and American Bandstand. They did that. I didn't do that. And then growing up, I didn't have any musical aspirations because I was a kid. I went to Catholic school my whole life. Straight A's, by the way. And all I cared about was comic books. All I did was read, collect, and draw comic books. But I think that's the thing that set me up for music because all I cared about was comic books. Marvel comic books, because Stan Lee, he's a god. He was brilliant. He put the superheroes really in New York. So every time I read a Marvel comic book, I got a lesson about the world and the city that I lived in. And also the comic books was very key. It was very powerful for me because I wanted to understand what Tony Stark's, Dr. Bruce Banner, and Reed Richards, I needed to understand what they were talking about. So I paid attention in school. So from first grade to 8th grade, comic books allowed me to become a great student. And it also allowed me to learn about storytelling. So then, and it was like 1976 when I first heard hip hop. Still didn't care about it because all I cared about was my comic books. Yes. But it was around 78 when I just started writing, not actually rhymes for myself, but stories about me. I'm Darryl McDaniels, I live in Queens, I go to school. It was just a way for me to talk about myself. And then my partner, Run, who was a professional rapper at age 15, except during the school year. But during the summertime, and this blew my mind, we in 8th grade, summertime, he would tour with the first rapper signed to a major label, Curtis Blow. Remember Curtis Blow? These are the breaks. Yes. He was one of the first. So long story short, it was Run who found my rhyme book. And he was like, yo, D, you wrote these? And I was like, yeah, it's a hobby. And he was like, this is really good. Yeah. And he told me in 8th grade, whenever my brother lets me make a record, I'm putting you in my group. And I didn't understand that because I was like, I don't do this. Yes. Grandmaster Flash and Kurt, you all do this. But 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade, I graduated from Rice High School. The phone rings. And it was June of 82. In August of 82, the phone rings. And it was Joe. D, remember when I said 4 years ago, if I make a record, I'm putting you in my group? And I was like, yeah. He was like, grab your rhyme book. And we went into the studio and made it like that. So here I sit today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So you never know what your hobby or the thing that you enjoy where it can take you.
I know you were quoted as saying, I wouldn't exist musically without comic books.
Yep.
But you're also a advocate, very passionate about education. And you have a lot of educators sitting in the room here. So,
educators and librarians are the rock stars of the universe.
So when thank you. When I was bragging about winning the lottery and being able to be here with you, I was asked, how do you go from music to education to inspiring kids?
Right. It's the arts and literature and storytelling and creativity, finger painting. It's the arts that really allow people to communicate and to learn and to investigate and to experiment and all of that. Creation and innovation leads to transformation. So if you notice, we learn by melody and repetition. And when I go around to the elementary schools now, because I have a children's book now, I started speaking at universities and I was speaking at high schools. And then those educators are like, you need to take the message to the middle schools. So I go to the middle schools, and now I go to the elementary schools. Education, the music set me up to be an educator because, first of all, I got everything I was doing on record from my teachers. I remember all my teachers. Mrs. Keenan was kindergarten, Sister Nazaire was first grade, Miss Peterson was second grade, Miss Regina was third grade, Miss Florentino was fourth grade, Mrs. Reed was fifth grade, Mr. McNally was sixth grade, Sister Patricia was seventh grade, and Sister Mary was eighth grade. So they were teaching me, you know, history and social studies. At the same time, in the 70s, 70s radio was beautiful because in the beginning it was segregated. You had the white station and you had the black station in New York City and the AM radios. But then this radio station called 77 WABC in New York City, Dan Ingram and Harry Harrison, they played the black music and the white music together. But if you notice, all the songs from the folk rockers and the rock rockers, they was dealing with stuff like presidents and politics. When you think of John Fogerty, Fortunate Son, when you think of Neil Young. So they were saying words that I was learning in school. So when it came to me making records, look at how I came out making my records. I'm DMC, in the place to be. I go to St. John's University. And since kindergarten, I acquired the knowledge. After 12th grade, I went straight to college. Just for me, by saying those things on the record, made kids go, oh, shoot, you don't got to sell drugs. You ain't got to be in the gangs. And those kids now got permission from somebody that represents them where they at to say, yo, you don't have to be a gangbanger and no negativity. So I just realized if I could take everything that I'm learning and put it in my music, I could help the educators. So music and art and creativity, they should never take it out to schools. It's the thing that'll make kids go to school. But for some reason in the 70s, and the kids will want to learn. And what I'm trying to say is, we've learned by one of the greatest rhymes or rap songs in history. Everybody in here has sung it and said it, and all of y'all were rappers and didn't even know it. And let me prove it to you right now. A, B, C, D, E, F, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, Q, R, S, T, U, W, X, Y, and Z. Now you know your A, B. Come on, y'all. So it was already there. So that's why we learned it. 1, 2, 3, 4, speed it up a little more, following MP trips. So the music is a big part of education because it helps you remember. So for me, there was this rapper before me named Kool Moe Dee. And not Kool Moe Dee from the 90s who battled LL. That was phenomenal. But Kool Moe Dee was in a group called the Treacherous Three. Before Run DMC and all these records, and all of their records were socially conscious records where they didn't disrespect women, didn't glorify violence, and they made education a theme. Kool Moe Dee blew my mind. I think I was like probably 16. He probably was around 19. He said this rhyme on this record. They did a record called Yes We Can, where they sampled the Pointer Sisters. Remember, doo-ba-doo-ba-doo, I know we can make it. I know that we can. I know darn well that we can work it out. Remember that song? So we learned from our elders. So when it was time for us to portray or produce our knowledge, we took elements from the generations before us, but we spoke in our language. So Kool Moe Dee, he said this rhyme, and it blew my mind. Now, he was always, you know, up there with Jay-Z and Eminem and the best. But when it came time for him to say his rhyme, he didn't brag about the money that he had in his car. He didn't talk about women and drugs and stuff like that. He said this rhyme, and I'll never forget this. And it's the reason why it gave me confidence to rhyme my St. John's rhyme. He said, once a nobody from the neighborhood, I took a hop to the top because I knew that I would excel over the rest because I make progress. I don't consider it luck because I'm not blessed. I got my life all together, love the way that I live, go to school really cool, and I think positive because it's a right to have fun, lots of pleasures and joy, but it's a brain that separates the men from the boys. I was like, wow. So it had an effect on me, and I said, yo, we can use music to educate, because there was a lot of stuff that I learned in history that I didn't know, because KRS One, the teacher, he don't call himself a rapper, he calls himself the teacher. And every time he does a record, he gives us black history, stuff that I wasn't getting in school. So there was a lot, I didn't know a black guy made the traffic light. Whoa, you telling me that? But he knew how to communicate it. So it's very important that we create facilities moving forward in education, and this is what my organization is, with the studio, with the dance studio, with the art studio, with the poetry, with the kids want to get, kids, I found this out, kids want to dance and sing. You allow them to dance and sing while you teach them, you'll have highly elevated young generation. Right now, they're trying to dumb us down, thinking all this material stuff and the stuff you see on TikTok is important. So we got to use the art and education combined.
Exactly. So we talked this morning about challenges in the K-12 space. And many of our kids, what's going on in the world, it's impacting them mentally. I know you've spoken about your mental health challenges and some of the things that you've gone through. I mean, what advice would you give? You know, how do we support our kids through what's going on out there today?
First of all, the majority of educators is on the right track. You got to talk about it. If two of my greatest rhymes, if you remove guilt and shame, you remove the pain of dealing with the situation. These kids are in painful situations, personally, socially, universally, and economically. But over the years, and it's not just with the black kids. I mean, there's a big problem with the black kids, especially the rappers, because everybody's going through something. You okay? Yeah, but they lying. My thing is, you got to be honest. If you remove guilt and shame and discuss it openly, you remove the pain of dealing with it. And now the kids don't feel like weirdos or psychos or weird for doing it. And what I mean by that, and if you don't talk about how you feel, whether good or bad, you never heal. Because kids are taught from African American, my Asian friends, and especially my Italian friends, especially the men. Man up, you don't do that. No, you ain't supposed to do that. No, but the most powerful thing that you can do as a man or any person is admit when you're weak, vulnerable, scared, and have anxiety. So we got to empower the kids to talk about what they're going through. And it's got to be done in such a way where if I got a toothache, I'm not ashamed to tell you I got a toothache. What are you going to tell me? Go to the dentist. When I was in second grade, Miss Peterson, I was sitting in the back of the class, because I like to sit in the back of the class to hide my comic books and my workbooks to make the teacher think I'm reading, but she knew all the time. But my teacher noticed that I was squinting. So when my mother came to pick me up, she approached my mother and said, Miss McDaniels, I think Darryl has a problem with his eyes. That's why I started wearing glasses. I'm 60 years old now. Sometimes it hurts to get out of bed after a show. But when I start saying that, they say, go to the doctor. So the kids got to understand if they're feeling some way mentally, it's okay to go talk to somebody about it. And the way that we've been doing that now, it's hard because everybody's portraying this false representation of what real power is. But we just found this out. Y'all remember The Message, right? The record, Grandmaster Fed. The Message was a mental health record. Calling out, it's like a jungle sometimes. It makes me wonder how I keep from going under. Exactly. They spoke about that. And then people started paying attention. Don't push me. Everybody's stressed out and all over the place. So what I started doing lately was I go in and I speak to the kids about my problems. I was an alcoholic, suicidal, metaphysical, spiritual wreck who was thinking of killing himself. And this was in 1993 after all the, I'm DMC who walked this way in his Adidas that tell the world how tricky life can be. And everybody was looking at me like this most powerful God and being. But when people would come up to me for not seeing me in a long time, yo, DMC, we see Run all the time. Y'all remember Run's house? He had 10 seasons of a successful show. I didn't show up once. So people thought there was a problem with me and Run. No. First of all, Jay's dead, so there's no Run DMC. But while Run was doing his TV show, I'm in rehab and therapy. And I would tell people that, young and old, and they would go, whoa. and you would see all the celebrity stuff go away. And I would go, yeah, I'm an alcoholic, suicide, a metaphysical, spiritual wreck who is thinking of killing himself. And they would go, wow. And I said, hold up, it didn't end there. While all that was going on at age 35, I find out that I'm adopted. I'm thinking of killing myself. And I say, all right, I'm going to write a book because I got my music and I got the videos and all the stuff I did with Run DMC, but I want people to know Darryl. So I called my mother up. Now, the first thing that I did wrong was not tell my mother. I was one of them. I ain't going to tell her that. Number one, I don't want to bring no problems to her, and I don't want her to think I'm weak or whatever. So I called my mother up, and I should have said, Mom, I'm thinking of killing myself. I don't know what's going on. And she would have did everything in the world to help me. But I felt guilty and ashamed. So I go, Mom, I'm writing a book, and just to make it more interesting for the reader, I need to know 3 things. How much did I weigh? She told me. What time I was born? She told me. What hospital? She told me. Hung up the phone. This is crazy. An hour goes by. I'm an alcoholic, suicide, a metaphysical wreck who's thinking of killing herself. She calls back with my father an hour later. Hey, son, hey, Dad, we have something else to tell you. Now, I'm thinking she's going to go, well, when you was born, there was a power outage at the hospital, and we gave birth to you by candlelight. Nope. They hit me with this. We have something else to tell you. You was a month old when we brought you home, and you're adopted, but we love you. Bye. So imagine where I was at. Imagine where I was at. But fortunately, feeling all alone, I met another adoptive person. And this is where my therapy started. I met another adoptive person going through something, and I was going through something, and all we did was just sit there and talk about it. And we got mad, we got angry, we got sad, and it was beautiful. And because of that encounter, I said, you know what? I'm going to go get some help. So now I tell the kids, we celebrate people who say, I feel like I could take on the world today. I could fight the army, yeah. But as soon as somebody goes, I got anxiety, I'm depressed, we go as a society, get away from me, weirdo. So I noticed this. What I'm trying to say with my music, I was always lifting people up. You know, and everybody around me, when you look at the old school, it's not a time period. It's a consciousness. We lifted the women up. We ain't call them the B word and the H word. We made even the worst person see the goodness in themselves. So for me, what happened when I got out of rehab and therapy, now I'm back in the world. I'm back in the store. I'm flying around. I'm moving around. I'm in the supermarket. And people's coming up to me. Yo, DMC, what's up with you? Why you ain't on Run's house? You know, they want the Instagram version. And I give them the real version. I go, well, I was in rehab and therapy. I went through this. And 100% of the time, 2 things will happen. And this is powerful. This is why we shouldn't be afraid to talk about it. I was an alcoholic, suicide, a metaphysical, spiritual wreck who was thinking of killing himself, who found out he was adopted at age 35. Jam Master Jay got shot and killed, and then my father died. But I went to therapy and rehab. And 100% of the time, people do this. They go, I tell them that, they go, because they show guilty and ashamed, because they checking for bugs. And they say these words to me, and this hurts. And they're only telling me, first of all, because I'm DMC, my ID to walk this way, God. And I just revealed that to them. But these words hurt. They go, DMC, I've never told anybody this, me too. So that means if they wouldn't have met me and I wouldn't open up like the same way I said, I got a toothache, I just revealed I was going to kill myself, they would have never told nobody. So they're walking around all day with that pain. But here's the one that kills me. When I do that same thing and they do this, they go, and then they go, not them, they go, my mother, my father, my sister, my brother. So that means I come to work with you. I'm ashamed of what you're going to think about me because my daughter is home on meth. I'm so ashamed what you're going to think about me when I should be telling you, how do I get my daughter help? So I notice I rhyme about my sneakers. I'm so gangster, I rhyme about Christmas time. But when I talk about the things that we all go through like it's normal, people receive it like it's normal. So that's how we remove the guilt and shame. Conversation and dialogue is education. If we don't talk about it with the kids, and it's crazy, the 12-year-olds and the 8-year-olds, sit them down and say, how do you feel? And when I go to high schools and middle schools and even elementary schools, I don't say I'm an alcoholic, suicide. I talk about I was really sad once and this and that. And just by me revealing it, These kids go, wow, I never seen my teacher or an adult never do that. So usually when it's time for Q&A, remember, it's dialogue, conversation. I was really sad. I'm getting teased. My book is about being teased and bullied. I wrote a story about that. Yes, I'm the baddest thing you ever saw on a microphone, but I also went through things. When it's time for Q&A with the third, fourth, fifth, and sixth, all the way to eighth, questions used to be, do you know Justin Bieber? Do you know Taylor Swift? But now it's, how did you feel when you found out you was adopted? How did you feel when you was getting bullied, teased and bullied? Now they're saying it's okay for me to have these emotions and try to work it out. So everything that I'm doing with my music set me up to be able to walk in a room with no matter who it is and say, it's okay to not be okay because there always can be a better day. And if you don't know how to get there, I'll show you the way and all that rhyme stuff.
And they say our struggles. Yep. And they say our struggles make us stronger, and today you're an inspiration.
For sure.
You're a motivation to all of our kids, to all of our adults.
Yes.
But I know we don't have long left, but you've done a lot. I mean, tell us about the Felix organization. You make comics we heard about. You have books. Oh,
I do cookies. That's the new thing.
Do not look at my cookies here, but.
Yeah. I like doing things that make people happy. I like doing things that show people a better way. So after I found out I was adopted, my adopted friend I was talking to, her name is Sheila Jaffe. She's a casting director in Hollywood. She cast Sopranos, Entourage, John Travolta, Mark Wahlberg. When we got together, we said, yes, we've been through a lot and this and that. And, you know, there's always adversity no matter what you do. My friend told me there's so much drama in tennis. Do you think the music business is crazy? But me and Sheila said, we need to do something for the kids. So number one, they don't feel alone. And regardless of what they're going through, you got to understand something with these kids. Their situation doesn't define who they are. So 20 years ago, we started an organization called the Felix Organization. We started a sleepaway camp for foster kids and the kids that might not get adopted. So while they get there, you know, they get nature and all that stuff. But while they're there, we asked them, you know, these are 5 to 16-year-old kids. What is it that you want to do? Oh, I want to be a DJ. So for 1 week in camp, they get DJ lessons. Oh, I want to be a photographer, a photography school to come teach. I want a dance school. So whatever it is the kid that want to be, I want to be the journalist. All right, once a day, once a week, during a camp, you're going to leave the camp, and you're going to go intern at CBS News. You got to give the kids the opportunity. They don't want handouts. They want to participate. And sometimes the way our government is set up, it deprives the kids of this. But we have the power. You can go take a kid to the park. You can go take a kid to the opera. So we started the Felix Organization, and also all along to continue the inspiration and motivation you just spoke about. Since I was in the comic books, I realized looking back, Stan Lee in DC, but Stan Lee more specifically, he helped a lot of people in New York City deal with issues. Stan Lee, if you go back and read those early Marvel comic books of the 60s and 70s, he dealt with racism, he dealt with social issues, he dealt with drugs, he dealt with crime. All of these messages was in there. So 10 years ago, I started a comic book company called DMC, which means Darryl Makes Comics, so I could put some of these anxiety and the struggles that we go through in the book. So I'm using the arts to communicate, motivate, and educate.
Great.
So shameless plug. You can get your cookies right now. We're trying to get in all the stores, but right now DMC Darryl Makes Cookies is online at dmccookies.com. And we have the Christmas cookie coming out right after Thanksgiving. A Christmas in Hollis Christmas cookie. And the books you can find at any bookstore.
And there's so much more that you are doing. I hear you have a children's Christmas book that's coming out.
Yes, that's going to be next year.
10 Ways Not to Commit Suicide.
10 Ways Not to Commit Suicide is the book where you can find more of those stories there. And I advise a lot of people, if you know somebody going through something, get the book 10 Ways Not to Commit Suicide and give it to a person. Because at first, everybody that reads my book goes, D, you talking about me. And they need to see themselves, because we're always looking at everybody else's story. but all the stories the same. When I was in rehab, I was in there with gambling, sex addicts, anorexic, this and that. We all going through the same thing. But the beautiful thing about the place that I went, it was a Sierra Tucson in Arizona. Yes, I went to Sierra Tucson, a beautiful thing right there. It allows you to sit there. Look, we have emotions and we get stressed out. Part of the stress is not accepting or acknowledging that this is a strenuous but it doesn't define you. Your situation is messed up, not you. So I've learned over the years from listening to folk, to classic rock, and the old school hip hop, and a lot of great singers from Stevie Wonder all the way to Grover Washington and all those cats, is that let's talk about what we're going through. Some of the greatest songs that we all love is about something somebody been through. So that we have nothing to be ashamed of. But the only way we heal is if we embrace each other and just tell somebody, yo, if you ever need somebody to talk to, I'm here. Because people always ask me, what if you ain't got money for a therapist? I remember I told this kid, I told this little kid in the middle school, he was an adopted kid. And he was like the only adopted kid in the school. So he felt different. He was just always sad and whatever. So he said, Mr. DMC, what do I do when I'm feeling sad in school? I said, if it's all right with your teachers, is there anybody who you can think of, even when you're at your saddest point in your life, if it doesn't bring a smile to your face, it brings a smile to you inside? And this kid, he was like, oh yeah, the librarian. So I said, if you ever going through an issue, ask your teacher to be excused and go speak to the librarian. So long story short, he took DMC's advice. He was going through something, and he said, Mr. DMC said, he called me Mr. because I'm 60 now. If I was 20, it'd have been DMC said, but so he goes to the librarian, and he goes up to the librarian, the lady that's been there, and she's the only one that, I need to tell you something, I'm adopted, this and that. And this is crazy. This is why dialogue is important. The librarian says, I forgot the kid's name, Harold or Henry, I knew it was an H. He says, Miss Henry, sometimes I feel all alone in there because I'm adopted and other kids, this and that. And Miss Henry goes, oh my God, Harold. She goes, I've never told this body, I never told anybody in the school, she was adopted too. So she told him. Now this is what it did for him. Once he knew, there's somebody like me. So since that day, the principal said he comes to school like this now. Because he knows there's somebody just like him in this school, and it doesn't make a difference. So that's why I'm trying to do all of this right now, because I learned from the best. I learned from Neil Young. Marvin Gaye, who was just known for sex and love songs, he had to make What's Going On against Berry Gordy's wishes. So even when you're trying to do good, there's always adversity. But it's the ones that have the guts to talk about it or show up or represent it. That's what I learned. That's why I love hip hop and rock and roll.
And I think we're out of time.
Thank you, everybody.
We have time for a couple of questions.
Okay.
Oh,
All right.
If anybody have a, you got one?
So obviously Stan Lee is your idol. Did you get to meet him?
Yes, I met Stan Lee 3 times at the LA Comic-Con, twice at the New York Comic-Con. And I told Stan Lee, man, you created a monster. Because think about it like this. When I was reading those Marvel comic books, because Stan Lee put them in New York City, it wasn't fantasy, it's not make-believe no more, because it's in places I know. I learned about Hell's Kitchen. I learned about the Lower East Side. I learned about Harlem. Like, it blew my mind. Captain America has a black friend that fights with him. All of that. But check this out. People don't know this. Everybody thought my whole career shouting out my Queens neighborhood, you know, you rep your hood and stuff like that in hip-hop. I wasn't doing it because of that. When I was a little kid and I found out that Spider-Man Peter Parker comes from Queens, I wanted the world to know that. So yeah, I met Stan Lee 3 times.
So my question is that we have to deal with mental health issues all the time.
Yep.
And one of the things that surprised me, or maybe it shouldn't surprise me, is that the #1 hit country song was I'm Not Okay by Jelly Roll. And when you listen to that song, it really does strike a chord of there's a lot of people out there that are not okay, but they're hoping they're going to be all right. So I think your message really sends the message that there's a lot of us out there that are not okay, but we're hoping to be all right.
So we need to talk about it more so that people know that there's a lot of us not okay, but we all can be okay. Like me, when I look at my career, the greatest thing that I represent is I'm living, breathing proof you could beat and defeat whatever you're going through. When I went into rehab at Sierra Tucson, the first thing you do, they take you into the intake room, and they had the 10 characteristics of an addictive personality. Now, I go in there, it was like, pick one or two. I was like, I'm all of them. And it was funny, the therapists all started clapping, and I looked like, what they're doing there? And they told me, you're on your way to healing. A lot of times when me and Sheila go and sit down with kids, like we sit down with kids, I mean, we go to the group homes, we go to the foster care agencies, we go to the schools, and we also go to the detention facilities. And there's the kids, and these are young kids that did crazy things and going through crazy things, but you gotta understand, you don't know how their houses was. And we sit there with some of the toughest boys and girls ever. Me and Sheila tell them, if you feel like crying, you could cry. And they'll be like, yo, DMC, you can cry? Like you can be a dude? And I'm like, you could, and they'll cry. They'll cry because they got so much pent up emotion, but the thing that they're dragging around with them is not letting it out. It becomes baggage to them. So we discovered that in these neighborhoods, in all neighborhoods, black neighborhoods, and the rich kids are going through crazy shit too, excuse my language. But they all putting on this front to live this certain way. Oh, I gotta be like I gotta be like everybody I see on Instagram and stuff like that. It's good that you bring that up because we're dealing with a self-esteem issue with the younger generation. And for Jelly Roll to have guts to sing about it, you know how much pressure that takes off some of these individuals? But they walk around with the weight of holding up a false image of themselves. So Jelly Roll, but what I'm trying to say is more artists need to talk about it. But a lot of artists, especially in hip hop, would rather talk about sex, murder, gangbanging. In hip hop, negativity is used as a false sense of power. Positivity. I remember Ice-T came to a Run DMC show and said, this is the most gangster thing I've ever seen, and they don't even curse. But yeah, we just have to talk about it and tell more stories, put it in the art, put it in the creative arts so that the kids are able to express and deal and acknowledge these emotions.
Yep.
Yes.
It's a form of expression coming up in New York City. Allegedly, with the comic book background, did you ever get into graffiti? And can we?
Oh yes, I was definitely.
And what was your tag?
Yes, yes. If you listen to King of Rock, 1985, the Run DMC King of Rock song, where Run says, "I'm DJ Run, I could rap." I don't go, "I'm DMC." Run says, "I'm DJ Run, I could scratch." I don't go, "I'm DMC, I could rap." I go, "I'm DMC, I could draw." But you got to remember, I was this geeky little nerdy kid who went to Catholic school. I was too scared to write on walls. But I had a graffiti book where I did all my art. Yeah, and that's why I got into comic books. If you look at my Darryl Makes comic books, I've got graffiti artists that actually do the graffiti away from that. But yeah, I did my little graffiti, but I wasn't never writing on a train. My mother would beat my butt if I wrote on it.
You have a great story with Adidas. And everyone in the room here, I mean, I want you to just tell that story about when the people from Adidas. Came over. And also acknowledge the fact that you paved the way for Kanye West to become a billionaire.
Oh, for sure.
And
yeah. No curls.
That's not a good thing.
No curls, no braids, PZ head, and still get paid. I am the reason why those Yeezys can be made.
Yeah.
Those are bars.
Yeah.
But the Adidas thing came about from when we was writing our songs, we were just talking about family and school and cool stuff. Because what's going on with the generation too, like I said, negativity is a false sense of power. So when you say the streets, when you said the streets, you immediately thought what you saw in Shaft and Superfly and Jim Brown, the blaxploitation, or in any neighborhood you think gangs. When you say the streets, you think about what goes on in the streets. We overlook something. In those same streets is the girls over there playing double dutch. kids playing hopscotch, kids playing basketball, kids playing in the sprinkler. So we done made the street, or saying the streets, but we excluded all the positive stuff that's in the street too. Like growing up, everybody wasn't in a gang. You always had the kid that you knew was going to college, that you knew was going to be the athlete, that you knew was going to take over his father's business, that you knew was going to be the scientist. They in the streets too. So for Run DMC, when we was coming up, we said, we're going to make a record about everything everybody else don't talk about. Because we was living it, but nobody was talking about it. The message was a cool message. Yes, that was what's going on in New York City, but then Africa Bambaataa and the Zulu Nation, the Soul Sonic Force, made a record called Planet Rock. Rock, rock to the planet rock. Don't stop. Those were the same kids living in the hood, but they wasn't talking about the situation they were in. They were talking about how the vision, they had a vision that could be different. We know a place where everybody's eating, nobody's killing, we ain't gangbanging no more, we taking care of the community. So when we came along, we said, yo, what are we gonna rhyme about next? Let's make a record about our sneakers. So we made a record about our sneakers called Adidas, and when you listen to my verse, the reason why I said what I was saying, because in my neighborhood, all the kids that wore new sneakers was getting judged. You know the saying, don't judge a book by its cover? So on the street corner was the kids with the new sneakers and the fly gear. That's a huge part of hip hop. But everybody on the street corner is not a gangbanger or a drug dealer. Now it's true, the drug dealers get money to go buy fresh clothes. But they overlooked the fact that out of those 15 kids on the corner, for example, my friend Douglas Hayes, we called him Butter because he was real nice in basketball. He worked 3 jobs to get 3 pair of Adidas. He worked at the old folks' home, he worked at the supermarket, and he worked at PAL to get his gold chain. He didn't rob, cheat, and steal. So when I went to write my record, my verse for Adidas, I realized my Adidas, yeah, they on the corner with the gangbangers and drug dealers, but you looking here and you judging me. Number one, I'm a straight A student. These sneakers walk in the hallways of St. John's University. Then it also hit me, oh my God, 1984, it's 86 now, 1985, I stepped on stage at Live Aid. I was on Live Aid with Mick and all of them. So I wanted to write a record to say, no, our situation doesn't define who we are, we do. So we made the song, and I tell kids this, I'm a geeky, nerdy, comic book reading kid that got teased, bullied, and picked on because I wear glasses. I don't play no basketball, and I got a sneaker deal just like Jordan. So if I could do that, imagine what you could do. And the whole thing was, I always tell kids, even the thing we did with Walk This Way, when we did the Walk This Way record, the brilliant thing about Walk This Way was, me and Ron could have just did it over, but we did it with them. We wanted to show that generations is connected. And Run DMC and Aerosmith gave birth to Korn, Limp Bizkit, Blink-182, Rage Against the Machine. You see what happens when generations come together and communicate and collaborate and participate, it gives birth to more. So we did the Adidas song, we did the Walk This Way record. We had no idea that it was gonna change business and marketing and promotion. We had no idea that teaming up with Aerosmith was gonna create a whole new genre. So I always tell the kids, don't be ashamed. I tell the dudes, don't be ashamed that you wanna do ballet, because you'll be the one holding Misty Copeland up on the stage at Carnegie Hall.
Exactly.
And I know y'all know Misty Copeland's story, living in a hotel with a 5-star. She's the #1. So these kids need to see examples of what it is where, and I tell them this, I tell the kids nowadays, we don't need no more rappers. Everybody's rapping. A lot of people can't rap, but I tell them what we do need, I said, what we do need to change the playing field is more educated individuals like yourselves sitting in the executive seats of these labels and promotion and marketing companies. Because then, okay, it's okay. You know, when you look at media and entertainment, there's Disney and there's porn. We forget about everything in between, you know what I'm saying? They don't know, we gotta make a Disney animated film, you just go do porn. But there's so much money and opportunity in the middle of that. And that's the thing that Run DMC always represented. But when it comes to hip hop, I say, yo, we need more lawyers, We need more accountants in hip hop. We need more managers. We need more minds to help. We need more people with the guts to tell this kid or this girl, you don't have to take your clothes off and twerk. You can be like Lauryn Hill. You can be, Queen Latifah was Queen Latifah. Moni Love. MC Light wasn't a female rapper. She was MC Light, a dope-ass rapper. But we had to, they partner them. They take these kids and turn them into something that they don't have to be. So Run DMC, we did the Adidas record. It made people realize, man, I can't rap. I don't know how to make a beat, but I can do something in hip hop. So Adidas, Walk This Way, created so many opportunities that didn't come out of, you know, it wasn't magic. They were already there. But we had to show people, by showing our power, people were able to see their power.
We need more DMCs.
We definitely do.